guys, I've got a really fun flirty bracelet for you guys today. It's called the Mambo Bracelet because you want to do the mambo, like I know the mambo moves, but it makes you want to do the mambo while you're wearing it. Here's what it is. It is a band, and we've made the band more interesting by alternating some triangle sections and some seed bead sections, so it's got some really cool texture in the band. And then on the ends, we've got all this flirty fringe, and believe it or not, that is where the clasp is. The clasp is actually hidden inside all this fringe. So when you wear it, you can't even see the clasp. So it's a kind of unique way of hiding your clasp, is basically by making it right up front. So let's take a closer look here on the board. This is my favorite, the green. Well, actually, I like both of them. I'm sitting here picking out dog hair. Sorry. These pieces of jewelry fell on the floor in my car, and evidently picked up a couple pieces of dog hair. Anyway, so here's all this fabulous fringe. So when you wear it, it's right on top, all that fabulous fringe, and it hides. See, if you dig right down in, there's the clasp. And so a lot of times people, when you're wearing it, they're like, how do you put it on? Well, it's underneath all the fringe right there. It does make it a little bit fussy to put on. So I will give you kind of a heads up on that. So when you go to put it on, I don't know that if this one fits me or not. Oh, it does. So when you go to put it on, you kind of have to dig down to where the loop and the toggle bar are to put it on. So it is a little bit fussy to put on, and of course I'm sitting here trying to put it on like you normally would put a clasp, but this clasp goes up on top. So you'll put it on like so, and then when you wear it, the fringe hides it. Okay, so here's the plan for how we're going to make this. We're going to start out by looking at how we make this bracelet band. You can see all that beautiful texture. The triangles really make this very unique, kind of a very modern look. And then we all have alternated with some seed beads. So we're going to start out by making the band. Then we're going to come back and we're going to attach the clasp on the ends. And then the last step is going to be adding all this fabulous fringe. So let's get started. Here I have a piece of fire line that I've already added the stopper bead to. I'm going to start out with my seed beads, and we're going to pick up 10 of them. Now, of course, this 10 makes this width, which is, I'm going to guess, I don't have a measuring tape here, but this looks like it's about maybe 1.25 inches. And you certainly could make it less wide if you wanted to, for those of you ladies who like a little more delicate jewelry. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. What we're doing here is flat peyote, so really easy. And if you need a refresher on how to do flat peyote, I will pop a link up for you. I've got a great video on how to do flat peyote. So the first couple of rows we're just going to do with our size 8s and flat peyote stitch. And it's kind of nice working with these bigger beads. So oftentimes I'm trying to make things smaller, but oops, hello. Making the beads fly. This bracelet was actually designed by my mother. Some of you guys, especially on Facebook, have gotten to know my mom. The people on Facebook tend to call her Mama June. She's kind of everybody's mom. And she's the one who designed this particular one. She's a great designer on her own, as well as being my shipping department, my customer service department. Let's see, what else does Mom do for me? She makes a lot of the kits. All right. So sizing is going to be a bit of, an issue with this particular bracelet. You're going to have to figure out sizing, especially considering that we are alternating seed bead and triangle sections. So what you want to do when you start out is just start out with 4 rows of the seed beads. And, oops, you know what? I'm actually already starting on row 5, so let me go back. Because 4 rows comes up really fast. And the reason is, let me remind you how to count rows here. The easiest way to count rows is to count the outside 2 columns here of the 2. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is our 4 rows. Let me show you why you're going to start with 4 rows. So here is where I've just got a little section of the triangles done, then I ended with 4 rows. These little sections on the ends are where you're going to adjust your sizing. So if you start out with 4 and you end with 4, and then that gets you close, and then any fine-tune adjusting, you can add a row or 2 on each end, or however many rows you need on each end of these seed bead sections to get your sizing exact. There is more information about sizing with all the numbers and exactly how much your clasp is going to take up and all that kind of stuff that are in the written instructions that are available at jillwisemandesigns.com, and I will pop a link up for those instructions. So this just gets you started with the 4 rows, and then you can come back in later and do your fine-tuning adjusting. So once you have done those first 4 rows, then you're ready to transition to the triangles. And honestly, there is nothing different that you're going to do. The triangles do all that crazy magic all by themselves. So you're just going to start using these triangles as regular old beads. And what happens is as you start adding the additional rows, the beads decide for themselves whether it's going to sit with the sharp edge up or the long edge up, and it's just kind of an organic thing. You could probably try to force it to do it one way or another, but if you just let them do their own thing, the triangles know how to make it look pretty. So here I am now. My sticky outy bead is a triangle bead. Here we go. Like so. The other thing, especially in this green one, it's not so much in the purple mix, this magenta mix, but in the green one there are several different colors in here. There's a little bit of bronze, there's a couple that kind of flash a little bit of purpley, then there's the silver sage green, and I just pick them up randomly. I do not try to decide what color I'm picking up where. And as long as you just kind of let it do its thing, you will be pleasantly surprised. Triangle beads have when they're cut in the factory, some of them can break, and that means, let's see if I can find a really wonky one. Sometimes you can find ones that have a really bad edge on them. Or some of them will be particularly long, and some of them will be particularly short. Now, of course, now that I'm looking for one of the wonky ones, do you think I can find one? But here, for instance, you can see that this one is particularly short by comparison to this. It's a little bit different. Here's an even longer one. But anyway, the point being that if you've got any really crazy wonky ones, call them out. You don't need to have, use every single one. So if you've got one that's got an edge that's at an angle, or if it's particularly small or particularly large, just don't use it. It's just not right for your project. Okay, so you're going to just keep doing peyote and alternating your strips with the seed beads and your strips with the triangles. How many rows of each you do is in the instructions, and so you're going to work on that. When we come back, we're going to have that strip finished, and then we're going to add the clasp to it. Isn't making that peyote strip fun? There's just something so calming about the rhythm of peyote. I just really love it. So you followed the instructions in the written PDF, and so you've got your sizing figured out. And now we're going to go ahead and do your peyote tube toggle. If you haven't made the little peyote tube before, I will pop up a link to, actually it'll be popped up over here, won't it? I will pop up a link to the video where I show you how to make the actual tube, the peyote tube itself. So this one I've already gotten made. So what we're going to do is we're just going to attach it. So let's take a look at the beads. Here I am with my little Barbie bracelet. She doesn't want to get left out. And what I have done here is, after I finished this last row, I just worked my thread so that it is coming out the second bead, sticky outy bead from the edge. So basically it was coming out this bead here, and then I just went on a diagonal right up through these beads to get it to come out the second sticky outy bead from the edge. And that's where we're going to start attaching. And we're going to be using these size 11 seed beads. So I'm picking up 4 of these size 11s. We're going to pass through 2 beads on the diagonal in the center of the peyote tube. And what I usually do is I kind of go through, you probably noticed I tried one set and it seemed like it was pretty tight in there. And so then I went over to the next set and kind of went through there. I always look for a set that I can get the needle in pretty easily, because we're going to want to reinforce this, which means we're going to want 3 passes of thread through the set of beads, and some of those bead holes are bigger than others. So you're looking for the ones that it's easy for you to get your needle on through there. And I kind of just eyeball where that center is, and it's, like I said, it's going to be 2 on the diagonal. And then we're pulling that on down. You're going to pick up 2 more beads here, and skipping 2 that you had originally picked up, we're going to go through the third one. So it'll be the second one closest to the bracelet itself. So we're creating like a little figure X. And then we're going to pick up 1 more bead right here, like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach all this by going through the next sticky outy bead here. And really I'm going to go through 2 because we're going to have to turn around to reinforce. So as we tighten all this up, you can see where this kind of looped around my toggle, so I just want to make sure that everything tightens up properly. Like so, like so. And here what we have now is those 2 Z's sitting right next to each other, come together at a single. Here's 2 more to cover any thread between these 2 sticky outies in your base. And now all we have to do is we want to go back and reinforce this whole thread path 2 more times. So it's just a matter of going through the beads so that your thread is not showing. So here I can go back up in this direction and see how the thread just sucked up in there. And I can go up here. Now you're going to notice that this bead is coming out of this side of this sticky outy, and where I'm coming right now, I would be going in the opposite direction. So what I can do instead is I'm going to go through the bead underneath it, and now I can turn around and my thread will sit right in that intersection there, and I can come right back up here, through here. All right, and so now I can reinforce this whole thread path. So I'll be coming up through 4 beads, through the 2 beads on the diagonal in the toggle, back down through these 2 on the other side, come on buddy, there we go. I can never get my head in as close as I want to, because otherwise my big old curly head would be blocking your view. Back through that one that where it comes together in the X, and then again through the 1 below that, through the 8 in the base, and back through there. And so then you would just repeat that 1 more time for a 3rd round of reinforcement. You're going to attach your loop basically the same way. We create this little crossover with your loop, and so the exact directions with the exact number of beads and everything that you pick up for the other side is in your instructions, your written instructions. So that's really easy schmeezy to do, to attach the clasp. You have an option if you want to do the fringing first and attach your clasp second, but I actually think it's easier to attach the clasp first and then go back and add the fringing. Either way, you're going to kind of be working around each other, trying to make sure that you don't have thread looping around on pieces of fringe and things that you've already got there. I'm going to show you some tips on how to keep that from happening in the next segment. So go ahead and get your clasp attached, and then let's come on back and add the fringes. Now that you've got your clasp on, I'd like to point out that this is a perfectly gorgeous bracelet just as is. So if you're not the frilly, fluffy type with all the fringes, it's cool just like that because the band is cool with those alternating beads. So I do want to make a verbal note. It's in the instructions, but this bracelet does tend to fit best if it is a little bit tighter to your wrist. I actually usually wear my bracelets pretty loose. I don't like to be restricted. I live in Texas. It's hot. I get sweaty. You know, I want air circulation underneath my bracelets. But this particular bracelet, because you want all that fringe on top and the fringe is heavier than just the plain beads on the bottom, you need it to fit just a little bit more snugly so that those fringes don't always go falling down to the bottom of your wrist. That's one of the problems that we have with a bracelet that's top heavy, is that you do need it to fit a little more snug. So just a verbal note on that. But once you've got your clasp done, then we get to the really fun part of fringing. And so let's take a closer look at what we're going to do here. We are going to add fringes all along this edge on both sides of Barbie's bracelet. And so what I've done is after I finished my reinforcing, I just worked my thread over so that it's coming out between the first two beads on the edge here. And this is where we're going to attach our first fringe. So you're going to be working with a broad range of beads here. So you've got 4 different things that you're working with. I've got 11s, 8s, 15s, and fire polish in here. So you're going to need all of those beads to make these fringes. So we're going to start out, the branches of these fringes are made with our 11s. So we're going to start out by picking up the 13 beads for that first branch. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. Then to turn around, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up one of the size 8s. We're going to pick up a 15 to keep that 8 on top. We're going to come back down the 8 and a couple of the seed beads in the branch, that very first branch. This is our very first branch right there. But that's kind of boring. It's just a big long fringe. So now we're going to make another branch off to the side. So we'll pick up another couple of seed beads here. And this time let's pick up a crystal with it, one of the fire polish crystals. A 15 on top to keep it on. You'll bring those down to your beads here. Now notice that there's a little bit of thread showing right here. You're not going to worry about it too much because unless there's a ton of thread. So let me actually purposely screw this up. Okay, so if I had not tightened down on that first one very well, notice how much thread is showing here. What you can do to tighten that is actually pinch with your finger that very tip bead, that 15 that we used to turn around. You'll pinch it with your finger. And then you'll pull on the thread, and that will then pull it all down so that you've eliminated all that extra thread right there. So anytime you see too much thread showing that it starts to bother you, use that to pinch and pull, okay? Then down here, what we're going to do is we're going to go back through the crystal, through the couple of beads that I put on that branch, and then going back into that main branch, you're going to go down a couple more beads. So this is all there is to fringing. Seriously, y'all, this is how easy it is. We're going to be adding a bunch more branches in with various combos of beads and fire polish and size 8s as we go down this branch. And then we'll move on to the next intersection and add another branch. Now the details of what you're adding along this way here and illustrations on what it should look like are in your instructions, okay? So this is just kind of a little demo to show you how the fringing is done. It's super, super easy. And that's going to be it. You're just going to be adding all that fringe in on one side, and then you'll have to add a new thread on the other side and add all the fringe on the other side, and then you get to wear your fabulous bracelet. And if you know how to do the mambo while wearing the bracelet, you're going to be amazing. So I hope you enjoy this project. Like I said, it's really kind of 2 projects in one. You've got the cool flat band, but then you also have the version with all the flirty fringe that everybody's going to be like, oh my God, that's so fabulous. How do you put it on? Trust me, the how do you put it on comet is going to come around more than you think it is. And it's just a lot of fun to wear. Enjoy.